For as long as I've been on BookTube, there has been this raging battle and discussion over ebooks, audiobooks, or physical books. And today I am here to determine which reigns above all. Or to just give you my piece on things, to give you my 2 cents. Does anybody even say that anymore? Hey guys, it's Ashley, and today I'm here to discuss the long, controversial topic amongst BookTube: physical books, ebooks, or audiobooks. There are pros and cons to each one of them, and people have been battling about this for ages on this stupid website, and I think it is time to put an end to all that crap. So today I'm going to give you the pros and cons in my terms as to what physical books, ebooks, and audiobooks are good and bad for. Also, before I get into this, I just want to put out there that whole argument over audiobooks aren't real reading because you're not actually reading a book, you're just listening to it, is a piece of trash, and anybody who believes that can just stop watching right now. I've listened to an audiobook before and known exactly what was happening in the story and was able to recount it to somebody the same as I would if I had read it physically, so y'all just need to just stop with that argument because it really makes me mad. Not gonna apologize for that opinion. Anyways, let's get into it. We're gonna start with the traditional physical book. This is a traditional book. This is what you think of when you hear the word book, and it feels natural to do it for us because we've been doing it since we invented books. When you hear the rustling of the pages, when you hear the word book, this is what it connotes with, is this, this thing here. You don't think of a device, you don't think of a Kindle, you don't think of earbuds, you think of this, a book, which is why it is the most widely used way to read, because this is what started it all. It's a book. We get it. Turning the page feels really good to a lot of people. A lot of people like hearing that sound of the page turning, feeling the pages between your fingers, being able to see how much you've read and how much you have left of the book right in front of your face. Some people even like the smell of it. I don't find that agreeable, but for some people it's very enjoyable, and to each their own. When you have a physical book in your hands, the cover is clearly visible unless for some reason you're hiding it. So when you're reading in public, people can see what you're reading and they can start a conversation based on what you're reading, or they can ask you about the book and you can talk to people. In some ways, this is a pro if you enjoy that kind of thing. For others, like me, it's a con because I don't want to talk to people while I'm reading. I'm reading a book for a reason, don't you know? I'm in a story. I don't want to have a conversation outside of that. And just reading a physical book sometimes, it makes you feel good about yourself because we're all on our phones all the time. We don't want to be on another tech device while we're reading a book, and we want to just read for old time's sake. So for some people, this makes you feel good about yourself because you get off your phone and you get on a book, which is great. Now let's talk about the pros of an ebook, which I got into pretty recently, so I've got a few things that I want to add. Ebooks are not what you typically think of as a traditional book. When somebody says the word book, you don't think of this little device right here. Ebooks sometimes get a bad rep, and I kind of want to, dispel that bad reputation, if that makes sense. Most of the time, an ebook is cheaper than a physical book if you were to buy it. If I were to buy a hardcover book in Barnes & Noble, let's say, it would be like $16.99. If I were to buy the same book on an ebook, it would be closer to $6 or $7, sometimes even less, depending on if they're having sales. One of the commonly known pros for ebooks is that it doesn't take up as much space as a physical book does. I mean, look at behind me at all the physical books that I have. Look at all of the space it's taking up in my room. And I have at least 10 books on this, and this is all the space it takes up, which is really nice if you're on the go a lot, if you're traveling a lot, if you don't want to have to carry around a bunch of books. This is really, really great. Also, you can kind of get a book anywhere that you are, so long as you have Wi-Fi and whatnot. One of the pros that I don't think that anybody really thinks about when they're talking about ebooks versus physical books is that depending on the e-reader you get, you can read in the dark with no problem. And yes, there are little book lights that you can clamp onto your book when you're reading so you can read physical books in the dark, but this is already built into it. You don't have to go out and buy something separate for it. You can read in the dark. You don't have to keep your light on in your bedroom while you read at 2 a.m. Something else nobody takes into account is that in an ebook, you can adjust the background color or the font size or the type of font or whatever to suit your eyes better and to suit you and your preferences better. Can't speak for all e-readers, but the Kindle is really great. Also, yes, I should throw out, this is not sponsored or anything. I just really like the Kindle. And double whammy, some e-readers are iPads or are Kindle Fires or whatever, which means you can read books and you can play games on the same device. which is great. Now, audiobooks are the one kind of reading format that I was never able to really get into, but without further ado, I do have some pros for audiobooks, and let me share them with you. For people who aren't me, you can multitask with an audiobook. You can listen to the book and do other things at once. I believe, if I'm not wrong, a lot of people claim when you're multitasking while listening to a book, you're not focusing on the book. And while that's true for some people, for other people, they're just able to do that and they enjoy that. And why shouldn't they? When you're listening to an audiobook in public, you pop those earbuds in and nobody will give you the time of day, and nobody will interrupt you unless they hate you, in which case they probably will. Again, if this is your preference, you go for it, but another pro for audiobooks for some certain people is that you can put it on a faster speed and listen to it a lot faster. You can get through the book a lot quicker than one of us would if we were reading physically or on ebook. So that's definitely a pro, though at the same time there's that whole argument where if you're listening to it quicker, you're not picking up everything that they say, and this just goes for different people. If you're one of those people who can do that, you go. You freaking go. And if you're one of those people who can't, you don't do that. It's not the end of the world. Nobody cares. A pro that I found really, really interesting when I thought about it was that an audiobook is probably the closest format to an actual movie that you can get out of any of these three, especially if you have an audiobook like Illuminate that has sound effects and a full cast of characters and everything like that. It's like a movie that you're listening to, but you can't see unless you imagine it, if that makes sense, which I think is a really, really cool pro and something that a lot of people could hop onto if they think of it that way. Another pro of audiobooks is that they're really good for learning languages, which is something that I never knew until I recently got an audiobook for learning French, and I've been listening to it in the car on the way to work, and so I can say stuff in French now, which is great. And especially if you get one, I'm listening to, I think, Learning French by Paul Noble or something, or with Paul Noble. I don't know. He's very dry and he doesn't have much of a sense of humor, but he's really good at teaching. Like, really good. And he has sort of an unconventional method, but really recommend if you guys are interested in learning a language or something like that. So, and the final pro that I have for audiobooks, great for people with disabilities. If you're blind, if you have bad eyesight, if you have something that prevents you from reading a physical or ebook or looking at anything, this is a great alternative. And yes, the same goes for physical books if maybe, let's say, somebody is deaf and they can only see. Reading a physical book is great for that. But since audiobooks get such a bad rep sometimes, especially among those people who seem to think audiobooks are not real reading, I'm choosing to focus on this aspect of it. So those are my thoughts on this long, controversial topic when it comes to physical books, audiobooks, ebooks, all of that jazz. There have been so many videos about this, and I'm probably just adding my voice to one of hundreds, but here we are. I hope you guys learned something from this video. I hope that you enjoyed hearing my side of things. If you have a preference from physical, ebook, or audiobook, please let me know down below. And as much as I don't want to bring up this can of worms, please let me know what you think on the whole audiobook topic. You already know where I stand on it, so please let me know down below and we can have a discussion. This whole video was sort of made in reaction to that argument, and at the same time, just because I've gotten so into ebooks recently and reading them, that I kind of have more thoughts on, the different formats of things. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you later. Goodbye.